like a vice that you shouldn't be able to get in and out of without the police knowing precisely who you are. Trouble is, it's a big place and you can't police every single street. Will, how are you doing?
I'm very well, Mike, very well, back in the country, and obviously the most important person I needed to speak to first was you.
Yes, well, of course, absolutely right. We're seeing you later, I think, for Plank of the Week this week as well, aren't we? So let's talk about the wider implications for security. Last night, some maniac managed to get close enough to the fence to throw some shotgun cartridges over it. I suspect if he tried to do anything more dangerous than that, he would have been stopped. But what do you make of how the police responded?
I think the police responded very adequately, and I think they dealt with the situation and controlled it as quickly and efficiently as possible. And, you know, the way that we look at these things, Mike, is this is a really, really complex, massive event to secure. You know, you've not just got all the members of the royal family. You've got foreign dignitaries, heads of states that are coming in, people of significant public profile, plus all the members of the general public. So, you know, this is huge, huge, unprecedented. I mean, unprecedented beyond Her Royal Majesty's funeral last year. So, you know, we've got something here where the police and the various other agencies working together and in tandem have been rehearsing, practicing, training, and we saw an example last night of how they deal with these situations as quickly as they can.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I mean, in terms of the way that they respond, I mean, how large of an area would you say they're kind of policing, and does it work in tiers, you know? So will they have, you know, tighter security the closer you get to the route, as it were?
Yeah, absolutely. You have various different zones as would be marked out, a little bit like a fried egg. And if you think the yolk is actually the event location, such as, for example, where the coronation's taking place, and then that yolk will change to Buckingham Palace for, obviously, the members of the royal family when they come out onto the balcony. And then it's obviously in various ripples or circles expanding beyond that, where security is obviously at various different levels and degrees. Now, again, that's not just looking at the royal family, it's also looking at members of the general public, because it's very important not only to make sure that the royals are kept safe, but everybody who comes out to celebrate as well.
Yeah. Now, as a security expert, you'll be able to answer this question, I hope. Yesterday, I was walking through Parliament Square, past the House of Lords. They'd banned all traffic from driving through from London, from Westminster Bridge down to Lambeth Bridge, up to Victoria, up Constitution Hill, past the Green Park. No access whatsoever for cars. But if you were on a bike, you could come away as happily as Larry. So it can't be just about vehicular safety, can it?
Well, no, there's a number of different factors here, Mike. There's obviously in terms of parking and vehicles, which could be VBIEDs, which are vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices. Yeah. That's not to exclude motorcycles, but motorcycles are far quicker and easier to screen and to verify. Bicycles, obviously, again, you know, they're less on the risk level, and you're looking at what the actual rider of that bicycle is wearing. Are they wearing a backpack? There's, you know, at this particular time, Mike, it's everybody configuring their security, their remits of responsibility, which areas they're covering and protecting. But it's also looking at any hostile reconnaissance that might be undertaken right now by those who are planning to do something, because they want to see how the security is set up, where the cordons are, where the access points are. So whether it be a terrorist or whether it be Stop Oil or some other direct action group, it's going to be looking at, you know, where they could potentially do their protest or disruption or attack. And the authorities are going to be looking, obviously, at the security around that and making sure that anybody who looks as though they're scoping out their possible plan, they'll disrupt it or they'll identify it. There are lots of different ways to do that.
Sure. But, I mean, in a car in that area, you can't stop anyway. I mean, if you were driving around, you know, the middle of Parliament Square and you stopped your car at any point, there'd be a police officer on you anyway within about 2 seconds, I would have thought.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's also looking at the parking areas, you know, where there are metered spaces, you know, and again, some of those will be suspended. Quite a few have already been suspended to make it very difficult for anybody to plot up their vehicle in advance. And evidently, you know, most of the people coming along to watch and spectate and participate will be invited, obviously, to come in by public transport. And then it's going to be British Transport Police who are going to be really taking the arrowhead, if you like, in terms of the security around the underground network. and then obviously the buses and other means of public transport.
Yeah, absolutely right. And as far as the forces that are being used in London this weekend, I presume they'll be importing some of those from various different forces around the country. Does that mean that criminals will have a bit of a free rein on Saturday night when they're wandering about various different parts of the country going, oh, good, look, all the cops have gone to London?
No, I think, Mike, none of the constabularies are going to allow themselves to find themselves lacking, obviously, in coverage. And that coverage, any of the constabularies that will be asked to contribute and provide officers, they will be looking at, obviously, those patrolling officers, albeit, bear in mind, we've got a greatly diminished number of police officers than we've certainly had in the past, which does bring a little bit of load to bear, obviously, in the coverage and response. But again, this is only going to be for a couple of days. I remember meeting with quite a few police officers, obviously from various different constabularies around Her Royal Majesty's funeral last year, and they would literally be bussed down, do the job, bus back to their various parts of the country.
Yes, and a couple of stories around this morning. In the Sun this morning, a piece about the big poll that they did this week on what Britain really thinks about a variety of things, and on the subject of the climate protests. They basically don't think that the protesters are being treated harshly enough, and they think judges are treating them too leniently as well. We have on top of that the Home Office and the police writing to some of these protest groups and saying, look, if you want to protest on Saturday, you might want to be prepared for a slightly more robust policing system.
Absolutely, and quite right too. I mean, it's a bit like the London Marathon, and there was considerations. Yes, Extinction Rebellion took a very responsible and grown-up approach to say, why are we going to disrupt something which actually falls in line with our agenda? People running around in the fresh air and enjoying it, but also raising considerable amounts of money for charity. They're going to be the villains of the piece if they've done anything. And Stop Oil, again, they're kind of a law unto themselves. But if they decide they want to turn up, I mean, to be honest, there are probably going to be quite a few anti-monarchist groups, as there always are. But I would say to them, turn out at your peril, because there will be lots of royalists and monarchists like myself who will be there to celebrate, obviously, the coronation of our new king.
Yeah, they might. I mean, they might find themselves having to worry. They might find themselves having to worry a bit more about the pubs being open till 1 o'clock in the morning, and what happens when they shut the doors. I think that might be more of a problem. But I think we've lost you there. Just before I was about to ask you whether you thought we should change the national anthem. Are you back? No.
Yes, I'm back, Mike.
Oh, you are back.
You can hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah. So just in time to ask you whether you think we should change the national anthem. Some people seem to think that "God Save the King" is a bit too boring. Have a listen.
Oh,
I mean, it's great, isn't it? Why would you want to change it?
There's absolutely no reason to change it, Mike. It's, again, that our society and culture is getting eroded by stupid and idiot people who think that they know better. This is tradition. Let's keep our tradition.
Yeah, exactly right. Will, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. And, of course, look out for Plank of the Week this weekend, because Will Geddes will be on it. This is, of course, Talk TV. Coming up, we'll take your calls, 0344 499 1000. Mike had sent in this message when we were talking to Paul Scully. You should ask that MP what happens when the air is clean. Do we stop paying the tax? Good question. Well, the air will never be clean, will it? They'll always find new reasons for it to be dirty. It'll be the smokers, apparently, that George Osborne wants to kill off, effectively, that are causing the air pollution. Or it won't be cars anymore. It'll be buses. It will be trains. It will be something else. It'll be planes, for heaven's sake. Apparently, we're all going to be flying around in electric vehicles by then, so you won't have to worry. Yeah, sure. This is Talk TV.